It's Unparalleled's worst kept secret. I feel like you can get away with quite a lot more having less skill and less leg strength. You're much better off using these the way they're designed, which is much more hamstring intensive heel hooking. Hello, my name is Rhys and I'm going to be talking about the Unparallel Qubit today. My favourite shoe from the brand Unparallel, which I am sponsored by. I did mention that in a previous video, just thought I'd put that out there, but it doesn't mean I won't be unbiased and honest. In particular, I'm going to be talking about the heel that it has, which is often referred to as the cheat heel. It's Unparalleled's worst kept secret, because everyone seems to know about it, but maybe not as popular as it should be, in my opinion. I think the reason for that is there's a bit of knack to using it. This is the Unparallel Neutral with a much more traditional heel, with the rand coming all the way up, quite high up the Achilles, and lends itself really well to quite hip intensive heel hooking, side of your heel, not necessarily like catching much at the back. I feel like you can get away with quite a lot more having less skill and less leg strength with the Cubit. So you gave these to a beginner, I think they would be able to do harder heel hooks with this shoe in the first place than they would necessarily with this shoe, because this requires know-how on heel hooking. However, I think when you get into the nitty-gritty and hard climbing with these, it does take a fair bit of experience with these shoes to know how to use them. When I first got them, I had the Regulus, which has the exact same heel makeup. I didn't like them. I was using them the same way you would use a conventional heel, turning my hip in and using like this part of the shoe quite a lot. Actually sometimes slip. You're much better off using these the way they're designed, which is much more hamstring intensive heel hooking with all the load on this part of the shoe. I think both of these styles have their place and they are both necessary for different things. However, I think this is more versatile. It can do a lot of things that this sort of heel can't. For example, I can show you the difference on a hold like this. With the traditional heel, you would use it in this way, getting your hips close to the wall and using your foot basically as an anchor, so then you can move your hand. On holds that are a lot smaller than this, if you don't have a strong hips, but you have stronger hamstrings, this would be much more effective. Where your heel actually acts more as like another hand, essentially. You can keep your leg quite straight, your hips quite low while you move your hands. A famous example of where this would be effective would be the Problem Fat Lip at Raventor. Go check it out if you've not seen it before. This shoe is really effective on that boulder and supposedly is a couple grades easier if you use one of these. Another thing I found really useful about this heel is it requires less precision. You can almost throw your foot like a grappling hook and it catches on a hold because of this, as opposed to this, which is much smoother and has nothing to catch on. I'm going to find an appropriate heel hook move and try and demonstrate the benefits of having sort of this grappling hook style heel. But this problem is designed as a foot first boulder, but because of the trusty Cubit heel, I can just pull on, do the first move with my heel on. I'm not going to climb the boulder because it's quite hard for me, but I'll show you. With a smoother heel, and I did try this with the floats and didn't work, and no one else has been able to do it with Scarpas. You have to start like this, feet first, and end up with your left hand here, right hand here. Just mumbo jumbo that you don't need. Just buy a pair of Cubits, everything will be fine, don't worry about it. So I'll go on to talk about the rest of the shoe, because what you're all thinking is probably, you know, the heel's good, but how does the rest of the shoe perform? Like I said, it's my favorite Unparalleled shoe. It's my favorite shoe full stop on the market. It's got exceptional toe hooking. As you can see, it's got not thin, but not thick rubber across the toe. Perfect for
delicate toe hooks, and it's got like some weird crisscross texture, which I think is pretty grippy. The toe is really good.
I've used these in Margalef on the tiny little pockets, and they're really reliable. Toe hooking, I'd give them a 4. Towing, I would give 4.5. They're a stiffer shoe. You can use them for sport climbing and bouldering, and I mean trad climbing if you wanted to. They're pretty versatile. Similarly to a Solution, or maybe slightly stiffer. Probably as stiff as the Neutro out of the Unparallel range. Really, really handy shoes. A nice downturn that I've been able to maintain. Usually my shoes tend to flatten out a little bit over time, but with these, if I get them in a 7.5, which is what I get all my Unparallels in, the downturn, you know, stays, and they stay aggressive and stay tight. The heel, I would give a 72 out of 5. Edging, 3.5 or 4 out of 5. I would name this shoe sort of anyone. I don't really believe in beginners getting like crappy, cheap shoes to begin with. I think everyone should be climbing in technical shoes, not necessarily tight to begin with, but everyone should be climbing in technical shoes. I think this shoe could be aimed mainly at boulders and sport climbers, operating at all levels. I think it is that versatile and it is that good. If you have any questions about Cubit or Unparallels or generally anything to do with climbing or gear, you could find me on Instagram at Rhys1. Thank you Epic TV for having me try some shoes on, talk about shoes. And you can find more of our content over at Langlands Climbing on YouTube.